everyone, and welcome back to One Shots. I'm Knox.
What up, y'all? It's Kiko.
Nickums.
And we are back tonight to talk about The Breaker with a very special guest. We got Vocal Pineapple. Pineapple, thanks for doing this, man. How are you doing?
How's it going? Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man,
Thanks
absolutely.
for
Had to
being
get you here for this conversation because I think you're the only other YouTuber that I've ever heard talk about The Breaker. So
yeah,
I was like, yeah, definitely gonna send a message to Pineapple. But thanks for joining us, bro. Why don't you go ahead and tell our audience who is not familiar with you what you do, where they can find you, and all that jazz.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vocal Pineapple. I make content on My Hero, Jujutsu Kaisen, a number of series, and mainly I tweet. Mainly that's kind of been my thing lately. I tweet. My Twitter is @Vocal Pineapple, so you can follow me on there. And I might tweet about something that's relevant, but usually it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, so go ahead and follow Vocal Pineapple if you're not already. When this goes to YouTube, I'll do my best to put all of his links down in that description for you. But this is One Shots. For those of you who are new, this is our live manga podcast that we have every other Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the States. It's then uploaded to Patreon the next day, and then a couple days later, YouTube will get it, so that'll give you a couple ways to catch the episode if you miss it live. But yeah, normally this is the show where we talk about, weekly Shonen Jump manga or just manga. But considering the recent news from Naver that The Breaker Season 3 is finally in production, we figured this would be good enough time as any to have a dedicated Breaker episode. The first dedicated Breaker episode that we've had on this channel, which is something that I'm very happy to be doing right now, but I feel like is kind of overdue considering how big of Breaker fans we all are. But here we are, you guys. We're going to handle this the same way that we kind of did with the Undead Unluck episode that we did inside of One Shots, where the first half of the conversation is going to be a non-spoiler recommendation of The Breaker, why you should read it, what's great about it, but not telling you too much. Then we'll go into a brief intermission, come back from that, and anyone who decided to stay, we will just assume you're fans of The Breaker, and you can sit here and gush with us about how amazing of a series it is, what we can't wait to see in Season 3, theories, everything is going down tonight. So...
Hell yeah.
Getting into the topic at hand, why you should read The Breaker. Now, I feel like we could have a conversation. Actually, I feel like we should wait to have the conversation of how did you guys find The Breaker? Because this is a very obscure title,
it's a manhwa,
especially in the West, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where we're kind of I feel like just now starting to break into our true otaku in the last 10-ish years, you know what I mean? Manhwa is something that is brand new to most people, and not even just manhwa, just webtoons. Most people there's a difference technically between manhwa and webtoons, even though you can, if a webtoon is Korean, you can call it a manhwa and you'll be okay, but webtoons are digital only. The Breaker was serialized in a publication line, you know what I mean? Physically, you know what I mean? And I don't
has
know,
physical volumes, or
has
whatever.
physical volumes, all that jazz, you know what I mean? And they make physical versions of the webtoons that we read and whatnot. But I mean, this started off the press, you know what I mean? The same way that it happens in Japan, you know what I mean? So not a whole lot of people that I know have read any tried and true manhwa besides The Breaker. So it's very popular, but inside of its niche, but very obscure at the same time, as far as Western audiences go. So if you've never heard of The Breaker, this is the time to grab some popcorn and listen to us tell you why you should. So Pineapple, you're new, man. You want to start the conversation off? How do you, what do you want to tell our audience?
So the way that I first started reading it, I have this really good friend of mine named Paris who reads everything. I feel like he's kind of like the world scanner of manga. He just reads everything. He's one of those people who goes on the website and just clicks random and will read the thing all the way through.
Really?
And one day, I was in high school and he was like, there's a series, it's called The Breaker. You would love it. You need to read it. And usually when he says that, I'm like, well, you've given me 12 already this week, so I have to put that on a list, and then I will get to it, eventually in a month or a year, or I'll read it. But I started reading that, I think, in the middle of being bored with something else. And I mean, you know how reading that series goes. It's I have to read all of this.
Yeah.
Every time that I intend to put it down, I get to the end of the chapter and it's well, why would you do that? I have to go, how could you do that? I have to go on. I have other stuff to do today. I had other plans today. And how I ended up reading this whole manga in a day. And I'm like, whoa. And then it wasn't for a week until I realized that there was like more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it was that was still week to week at the time, and that was where the pain and torment began.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I found the
Yeah.
breaker. I found the breaker at first as New Waves. So I read the first like 3 chapters of the series,
Really, this is heat.
thinking that season 2 was the start of the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I was like, something doesn't feel right here. And then
Something's wrong. I feel like I've missed something.
Yeah, because the way that I did it is I was working at a place that just let you read manga all day at work on the computer that they provide you. So I'm like,
Perfect.
yeah, you know what I mean? I'm
Sounds
like,
amazing.
yeah, I'm like, let's find all of the manga. You know what I mean? So I'm in the search, hitting all the check boxes in the filter: shonen, martial arts, fantasy,
All the stuff I want.
superpowers. You know what I'm saying? I'm filtering it all, and then all of a sudden I see the breaker, and so I look into it. The art looks great. I look up like reviews on it, and they're like, this is the best martial arts story you'll ever read.
Yes.
Didn't really need to read anything else past that. Jumped right, right into it, but it was New Waves, you know what I mean? And I was like, what the hell? And then
what is going on?
Yeah, I had no idea what was happening, and I had to go back and restart it. But that was really funny. That's my breaker, situation. But Kiko, Nick, what happened with? No, wait, you guys. I think I recommended it to you guys, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, I can tell you, it feels like 10 years ago. Like I'm pretty sure it was 10 years ago. I know my wife was not even close to being my wife. I didn't even know her. So that's how long ago this was, right? Like it's like literally like 10 years ago that you told me to read it. And I remember we read together into The Breaker, the original, because obviously you're going to start me. I'm glad that you knew what was going on to start me around the right path, because it's like I don't want to get spoilery yet since this is like our non-spoiler area, but like a main character fight versus another, like a character who was stronger than he should have been at the time, right? And it was just super tight, like at that, like it just really blew the doors off this, and I was like, holy shit. And then you're like, yeah, this is Korean, and I'm like, Koreans are doing this shit too? What?
Oh yeah, because you didn't even know they had comics.
No, not at all.
Sure.
And so and then you're like, okay, so yeah, this is manhwa, right? Like this is what Koreans are doing. And I'm like, okay, there's a whole fucking world I've yet to explore, right? And then so like you're like, all right, read God of the High School and the like the webtoon ones, and like I get to those and I'm like, okay, this is tight, but where's some more of the? I want the old heat. I want the black and white. I want manga tight. I want to feel like manga, like the webtoons. They're good, but it's just obviously a whole different thing. Really, it's pretty much a different reading experience. Just scrolling through a digital comic like that, all on one. You scroll through it, right? Like I don't know, like something about actually turning a page, even if it's a digital page, still feels different. And I'm just like, man. Where are more of those? And you're like, they just don't have those. And I'm like, what are you doing to me here, man? Like I thought I was about to
the breaker is so unique because it's a manhwa. Normally when you read manhwa or webtoons, it's left to right. And the breaker being right to left. This is like if y'all haven't read manhwa yet, this is probably like the easiest transition from manga to manhwa. Period.
It's a really good starting point. Yeah.
It's black and white. It's read right to left. The only thing that you really have to deal with is Korean names. But like the translation team, pretty much anywhere you'll read it, is really good. Like they understand that all you've known is Japanese for like your entire life. You know what I mean? Like they do a great
They're
job
like, look,
helping you. Yeah.
When we set out to do this, we understood. All right. So here you go.
Yeah.
So for me or whatever, like my introduction was about 5 years ago or whatever, maybe 6 years ago. And obviously, like as Nox said, like Nox introduced me to the breaker. I think Kiko, I'm sure you were involved or whatever, and get me to read it or whatever. Yeah. And at the time, I had read, One Piece, I've seen Hunter, I've read Berserk, I've read a good amount of manga at the time. I hadn't started my mega, binge of all manga I could possibly get my hands on. Yeah. But at the time, I mean, I was just completely blown away by, as you said, Pineapple, right? Like you start it, you can't stop. Like you cannot stop. And it's so like you just rip through the entire story front to back, right? Yeah. Like I read The Breaker, I read New Waves, because by the time I'm starting New Waves is over. So I luckily didn't have to wait week to week at all, which was very nice. But like, so for me, it was crazy because it immediately jumped up to like my number 3. like shonen, right? Like
Yes.
One Piece, Hunter, Breaker.
Yes.
Maybe One Piece, Breaker, Hunter. You know, depending on your metrics, right? Like it's just so good.
It'll do that.
It's very good.
I thought that it was just a manga or a manhwa. I thought it was just a manhwa that was speaking to me directly when I found it. I was like, this is me. Like, this is me, the manga. You know what I mean? Like, it's like these motherfuckers know me is what I felt like when I was going through it.
Same.
And then you finish it, sit, you think, you reflect on it, you go through it again. And I'm like, no, this is just a really good fucking story.
Yeah.
That happens to be about everything I care about the most. You know what I mean? So it's not like, I thought I was
That's
just like,
really
it's a
good way to put
martial
it.
arts story. You know, it's meathead. Maybe it's not actually peak fiction. No. It's up there. You know what I mean? It's up there.
Definitely.
And as far as recommending the series, I mean, a brief synopsis. It came out in like 2005 or like 2008, I think, and it tells the story of a bullied kid who gets thrown into this hidden underworld of martial arts called the Muram through a chance encounter that he has with the strongest martial arts master in the world, who's actually undercover as the substitute teacher at the main character's high school. So like, it's really cool. Like right off the bat, a lot of people have an issue with like the first 10 chapters because it's very slow, even though like it's very similar to kind of like how Deku started off. It's actually a very similar progression.
It's a lot of setup
in that regard.
Yes.
Yeah. But the payoff is ridiculous. Once you see this man blossom into what he becomes later on in the series, you'll go back to all those slow moments and be
you
like,
miss it.
We needed this. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
We needed this for it to hit. And his development and his progression is top tier. It's got one of the best teacher disciple relationships that you'll ever read, and that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, for sure.
It's got a really good energy system. It's called Ki, but it's not like the Ki you see in like Dragon Ball.
It's not Dragon Ball Ki.
Yeah, it doesn't get egregious. It's very it's
none
very
of that shit.
you don't blow up planets, mountain. It's very grounded, but very superhuman at the same time. It feels like the perfect amount of power for a story that's going to focus this much on technical application of your discipline. You know what I mean?
That's you said that. That's exactly why I read the story. Like, that's exactly perfectly said. I just have to jump in because it's like this is the power scaling that I want in a story, right? Like some people may be able to use Ki to like knock over a fucking vehicle, and that's a high tier fucking
that's a big deal.
You know, martial arts. That's a big fucking deal, right? Like you can still be taken down with fucking conventional weapons of this age. You can get shot, right? Like so, like. That's huge for me. It's like I love my superhuman stories too, but like this is just the perfect amount of superhuman. Like
enough.
When somebody jumps off a building and like rappels down the building, it's like holy shit, that motherfucker's crazy. Not like hey, this is just a walk in the park. We all jump off a building all the time. You know, like so like it's just perfect. This is exactly my sweet spot for. All of that shit, technical application, fucking how the energy system is intertwined with that without overpowering anybody. That pretty much anybody can lose, you know, like that's the thing. Like if I can have a Hunter situation where pretty much anybody can lose, a fucking B tier can beat an A tier if the A tier's off and the B tier's on, right? Like that's the type of shit I need.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And that's probably one of the biggest things that people will take away from the Breaker, all things considered. Once you go back and you really reflect on it, you'll start comparing it to things. If you haven't already, you'll start really starting to compare it to things that you read before, and you'll be like, man, energy system up there, characters up there, design drip. This is one of the drippiest books you'll ever read. These motherfuckers are floating, bro. I'm talking about
whether it's suits or gis, they're both floating. Bro. Suits and gis on both sides. It's like they come with some stunting ass crazy Versace suit joints, and then the tightest gis you'll ever see. That I need to go I still don't have a Kang Sung gi, and
We've been wanting to get like Breaker gis for like ever.
You said you're getting Elder Quan. You wanted the long sleeves, and I wanted a more traditional fucking Kang Sung joint. And we're supposed to go to a con like that. So like we got to do that one day if we ever get to go to a con.
If the Breaker's coming back, you know what I'm saying?
And cons are coming back if we get a vaccine, like you know.
Pineapple.
Hell yeah.
What's like the one, like your one favorite thing about the Breaker, or like the one thing you really want to communicate to people who haven't read it?
I think it's like a two-part thing. I think one, it's the student-teacher relationship. It is so much the heart of the series. Like the series makes you fall so deeply in love with the characters, and like that's hard to do. Like there's series that will try so hard to get you to care about characters and or like certain relationships between characters, and just the relationship between the main character and his mentor is just like it's everything. It's everything.
It's up there with like Genkai and Yusuke. You know what I mean? It's just up there.
Like I feel for them like, all the time. Every time I see them together, I'm just like, yes. Let's. What are we up to now? Like I feel like I'm there and I'm ready to learn like what's next. And that's really rare for me in a mentor-student relationship that I read. And the second part would be that the main character is like unable to give up. Ever.
Yeah.
Like. Detrimentally so, like unable to give. I mean, those are obviously like, I mean, I'm a My Hero channel, right? Like those are my favorite characters. Where it's like main character's like, hey, I don't back down, I don't give up. All the problems are gonna come my way now because those are the two things I stand by, and that's how we're gonna live. And it's like, give me
all that. Inject it.
Give me. Ooh, especially when they don't start off that. Oh man.
Yeah, that's like, the key. How Yishiwun is when you meet him at first, to where he gets to, the growth you get to go with him. It's a beautiful journey. I
love it so much, and it's done really well in this series. I feel like this series, I can't think of anything whenever like it comes time to like critique it. There's nothing I can really think of that it's like, well, I really didn't like this. Like, no, right? Like, it's just like, especially like part one. It's just like it's just.
It's really hard to find complaints.
It's just this perfect cube of I don't know.
Absolutely. You're preaching to the gospel, bro, because it's like when I first started it, I feel bad because I had a lot of the same issues that people who tell me now that they're having with this series, and I get mad at them. I'm like, how could you? This is
don't do that.
Fiction the whole time. And I'm like, no, I gotta chill because I almost dropped this too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But once you finish it, man, like it's like One Piece. You know what I mean? It's like One Piece or any kind of long running story. And The Breaker comparatively is really not that long, but the storytelling is so tight and the characters are so well written throughout. And a lot happens in that stretch of storytelling that looking back, especially with the different art style, I bet plays into this. But looking back at The Breaker season 1, after finishing New Waves, it's a very nostalgic feeling. The same way looking back at East Blue episodes of One Piece makes you feel when you're caught up in One Piece, you know what I mean? And and it's a similar situation inside of Hunter x Hunter. Like when you have a fraction, of a 900, 1,000, chapter story, and you create that nostalgic vibe of like, I feel like these people are my friends. Like I feel like this is my family. You know what I mean? Like if you create that vibe in a fraction of the chapters, it's like you're doing something right. You know what I mean?
It feels like a much longer story than it actually is. Like I go back and read and I'm like, oh, what is this? Like 200? It's like, no, it's not. It's much shorter. And
but I had those issues in the beginning, and then like eventually I was just like, no.
It all comes together.
Right.
Yeah. It definitely does all come together. And when it comes together, it's a sight to behold. Nick, what's like the one thing you want to communicate, the biggest thing you want to let people who haven't read The Breaker know?
Yeah, I mean, y'all have touched on a lot of the good ones, but I do have a list here of like more things to go over, right? Like, for example, female characters. Like, no one's mentioned the female characters, and there are so many amazing female characters in the story. Fill in the blanks, because it's like I said, it's been like 5 years since I've read it, and I barely remember people's names.
Ginny is top tier.
Nails is a problem.
Inside of the first season of The Breaker, you have a very pivotal female character inside of Shiho, right? And when you meet this character, it's like the perfect way to introduce her kind of character in a series like this. You know what I mean? Because she's very much so feels like a Yayoi from Phantom Seer, or like a Gojo, from Jujutsu Kaisen. Just like the demeanor and like the personality comes off as like, I know way more than you do, and like you don't think that I do, but like you have no idea how much more I know than you. Like that's just like the vibe that her character gives off, which I feel like is rare in shonen storytelling to have a female character like that. So just inside of the first season, having Shiho there is great, because then it sets up the New Waves, which gives you way more badass female characters. You know what I mean? Because the first season is very much, focused around a tight, group of characters. But New Waves, the doors blow wide open and you get everyone, you know what I mean? And female character landscape in the series is up there as well.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, definitely.
Agreed.
Another one I wanted to mention is that, obviously talking about the student-teacher relationship, it's a huge part of the story. I love that you get peppered like flashbacks throughout the story of not just, you have the student-teacher relationship, but you get flashbacks of the teacher's teacher.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And those are always
Unwall.
so mysterious, so
and how
like
those
this
parallel together with like
whenever it feels like inherited will is happening when it wasn't originally established in the beginning, you know what I mean? Because you have your chosen one stories, you have your reincarnation stories, you know what I mean, where it's established right away because you want people to know this is what this story is about. But when you just have regular Joe or Jane main character, that develops, into the situation that we have inside of the Breaker, you don't think this is going to be like an inherited will side by side parallel of the previous generation kind of story. You know what I mean? But then once you start learning about Unwall and all of the dojos and all of the geopolitical, clan politics and things like that, you start going like, what is this? I thought this was supposed to be some punches and kicks, you know what I'm saying? What is all of this character work? What is all of these politics? What is all of this everything?
Yeah, and it's rich in history, even a little bit with like how we're talking about the student-teacher relationship and then the teacher's teacher. You don't get to see the teacher's teacher, but you get to hear about, like, they talk about like previous generations. You get to that inherited will is so deep within that main line of characters, of course. But there's little break-offs of these characters in different directions that have also inherited some kind of will or struggling to feel the will that they deserve, they should have inherited. Like it's so, man, there's so many different directions that are going with that. And it's just like, it's crazy because obviously you get that with the main tier too, but like you have all these other schools and they have heads, clan heads, and they have, the people right under them. And there's all these different philosophies on how like
a clan
martial
should be
arts
run.
is passed on. Exactly.
How you choose disciples.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like all of that has very intricate, nuanced processes.
It's a very living world.
Yes. It feels alive. Yes, absolutely. Pineapple. Like it legitimately, like when I can feel like the author has been really cooking this for a long ass time, it's one of the best feelings ever because it's like, what do I have to worry about? You know what I mean? When you start a new series, you're like, okay, this is a really cool premise, but I don't know. Like, no, like there's literally just no anxiety ever throughout like reading this about like how the story's going to go, like what characters going to do. Characters don't act out of character. Everything happens inside of a continuity that's respected. You know what I mean? And it's a wholesome feeling knowing that you have such a story with so much TLC. You know what I mean?
It feels like you're being like gently carried through somehow. Like it's really comforting almost the way that it's written. It's like, here you go. There's not going to be any trouble. I mean, there's going to be troubles, but here you go. I'm just going to nudge you slowly along and enjoy your journey.
Right.
And then the roller coaster ride happens and you go through a twist and stuff. And
and I do want to say like the stakes are there, even though it is it's a very comfortable story that you don't have to worry about. And Pineapple put it in a great way to where it feels like you're being enveloped by the authors and, taking on a journey hugged with, like your parents, you know what I mean? Walking through the fucking but it does turn up and it does get very dark. It gets very high octane. You don't know what's going to happen. Characters are not all like characters aren't safe. You know what I mean? It's very much so. I feel like something that you can carry, like into any, like it's going to be timeless. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to feel dated. Kind of the way how like previous generation shonen storytelling kind of feels now that we're moving into a more mature landscape. You know what I mean? Like, whereas now stories are starting to kill more characters. You're starting to get way darker plot lines and way darker, villains and, more nuanced, like deeper psychological motivations and shit like that. It's all getting more complicated everywhere. But then you look back at like a Dragon Ball or like a Fist of the North Star, and it's just like,
it's not there.
It just doesn't have that. But the Breaker is something where it just didn't care about norms. It didn't care about like, shonen, like guideline. I don't know how it works over in Korea, but they just told whatever the fuck story they wanted.
That's what it feels like.
They snapped, you know what I mean?
They're better for it, definitely. And just some examples, like, I mean, you're talking about the stakes are there. obviously character death is huge stakes, which are there. There is a lot of characters being maimed, and those injuries carry forward into further fights.
Yes.
One of the main characters is in a cast the entire fucking first part of the fucking story.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like, it's like he's fighting one armed the whole fucking
and
time.
one leg.
Like,
He didn't have a leg either.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, his legs fucked up too. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, and people are maimed. People are, injured like internally with the energy system, and that carries over. You can damage their key center, and stuff like that. So it's like, there's definitely a lot
their life
of different
points directly.
Yeah, banish them to the fucking whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not a good Yu-Gi-Oh guy.
I think that
And you caught it though. You caught it at least that. That's okay.
I think that adds a lot of weight to like every hit. Like already behind every punch and kick, there is a lot of impact, right? But like when you know that the injury someone gets from one of those impacts is going to be lasting, it hits even harder because like in series like this, like there's healing and stuff like that. Like you can do a certain amount to probably lessen an injury, but like. Someone messes you up inside bad enough, you're dealing with that.
And that's what the
like
breaker does, is it introduces a healing system, but constantly has the characters take damage that healing can't do anything about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so
like,
it can't be abused.
It can't be abused. It can't be relied on. You know what I mean?
And the healing processes are so intricate and have to be done
not hand
so
wavy.
precise.
You can't just go boom. You know what I mean?
It's not like I am healed. No, it's like no. You have to have gone through
I gotta hit
training.
your pressure points in a certain combination. Then
you
I gotta like
meditate
rev
for
my
X
key
amount
up
of
and like
time.
transfer it through a certain part of your body.
Fucking image train. Fucking sit here meditating, image training for X amount of time before I can actually go back and really train because like my body's not there yet.
Long, complicated process.
One more thing on stakes before I forget is that stakes, since we talk about it a lot on our channel and like what forms stakes can take in your story, I think that the Breaker does a really good job of hammering home a really big stake argument that I make on behalf of One Piece, because we know One Piece doesn't kill any characters. You know what I mean? But it's a very high stakes world that they live in despite that. And the reason why is because of how well we understand society and the superpowers involved. Inside of the Breaker, you just having a conversation with somebody can be seen by a spy in the bushes. And they'll go run back and tell their clan, this member of this school was talking to this member of this school. This is the conversation they had. Like things like that. It's not just death. One thing, any action you take can have huge rippling repercussions.
It's very Game of Thronesy.
Yes.
Yeah, in a very subtle way almost, because while I was reading, I never really considered it that way. But like when you explain it, it's like, there is a very kind of Game of Thrones sort of thing taking place in the series. Yes.
There's so much. There's so much deductive reasoning that these characters are using by exactly the example that Noxie's saying. It's like if I'm in the bushes and I see fucking this school talking to this school, I probably know like roughly what they're even talking about just by like the relationship and the situation and whatnot. And it's like I can run back to my and I can run back and tell my superior they're gonna know X amount more. Their deductive reasoning can take it to another level because of like it's just so good to see that much intricacy in the character interactions that you really don't know like, hey, these people just interacted this way. I don't, okay, this is what happened at face value, but every conversation you want to look deeper into and find it.
And to take it, this is something that you usually want to bring up, Kiko, but while we're on the topic, inside of the clan politics, it's fun, like just kind of like dovetailing on what I was saying about how, schools are so familiar with each other. Clan heads are so experienced with every other clan head and every other school that the conversations that they have are very high level and they have a lot of jargon involved, but the translation really helps you out with that. But the point that I'm making is that it gets to a point where the understanding of the Muram is so deep inside of these characters that they can go to a dead body and run an autopsy and they can look at the mortal wound and know what school inflicted the damage. This attack. This attack killed this person. The only school that knows this attack is this school. This school killed this guy. We got beef with this school now. You know what I mean? And that ripples out in crazy, like martial arts stories. I've read a decent amount of them. You know what I mean? And the Breaker gives you not just everything you need from a martial arts story, but it tells you things you didn't know you needed in a martial arts story too, and it bangs you over the head with that shit to the point where I'm going into new martial arts stories like, when is it going to get Breaker level? Even if it's crazy the whole time, you know what I mean?
It's the attention to detail. That's what it is. It's like, I didn't even think that you needed to explain this to me. Like, I would assume they would somehow get the information on where the clan was in some other way. And you're like, no. There's only one person, only clan who knows this technique. And it's like, well, that makes a lot of sense. But other series don't go into that at all. And it's like Breaker's like, no, we're going to get attention to detail. I'm going to show you that everything I put into this world is there for a reason. And I logically went on to like, well, if this happened, then this has to exist. And this has to exist. And this, and
it
I love it when
very
you can
much
tell.
so like, what would it be like if this world actually existed, and not how are we going to tell the story of this world in this fictional book that we're deciding to write?
Which is really impressive because of how well the story is told in that world, right? Like usually an author will focus on like, all right, I have my world and I'm gonna, you know, make all decisions spider out into what the world becomes, and then I'm gonna set a story in it, and like the world is more impressive than the story is, or you have the other way around,
right?
And it's in Breaker, you have the best of both, where it's like there's this great foundation in the world, and then there's like this story that is amazing, and there's not really much compromise in both of those two things. Like they mesh together really, really well.
Right. Another huge aspect of the world that Panzu has been trying to get in the chat a little bit, but Kiko, this is right up your alley. We've talked about, we've touched on this briefly, but in terms of like the world and like the organizations within the world, yes, the Murim and all these martial arts schools, huge, you know, conspiracies and strategic plays in between those. But there's also like the regular government, right? Like the Korean government that is like, they're just a regular ass government, you know, democracy or whatever. And but they know about the Murim and like they're trying to like, you know, there's like conflict between them, which is like super well done.
It's because the Murim has all the power to just take over the world if they want to, because they're superhuman. You know what I mean? Regular people couldn't do anything if the Murim decided, let's just run this entire thing. But the Murim, that's not the goal of them. They kind of just want to, they're like, cool, let's just compromise, no stress. You let us do whatever the fuck we want to do. Whenever we want to do it, whenever it's clan shit involved, you normies go
Mind
away.
your business.
Like get away from us. Like we will handle this. You leave us alone. We don't take over your planet. How about that? You know what I mean? And it's like,
very good reason.
There's good examples that are even made. It's like, what would a tank do against a man who's going to appear in your home at night and kill you in an instant? You don't even know what's going to happen. You got 1 billion guards outside. Not one guard heard or knew anything, and I'm just dead. Like I'm the prime minister of a country, and I'm just assassinated, and nobody could stop them, right? So it's like, what's a tank or a fucking plane, a bombing plane, going to do against these one individuals that one individual who may live secluded in seclusion, which is not really the story, but there is martial artists that do live in seclusion as well. They can just come out of the woodwork and fucking assassinate the fuck out of you. And it's like, it's so fucking deep with the agreement of Murim government versus world government, and we will not interfere in either of your guys' fucking affairs. You guys are going to do world government shit. We're going to do our fucking, martial arts government shit. But eventually that meshes and you get the deep political fucking relationship that you'll need with. There's a lot of subterfuge. There's a lot of fucking people that are in the shadows. I love people in the shadows at their fucking fancy tables talking shit in the background.
Shrouded. Okay, so I have to cut you off here real quick because
that's fine.
When you said what's a tank matter when a motherfucker's just gonna pop up in your crib one night, this reminds me, this is gonna be funny, this reminds me of a comic book. It's called Injustice. It's a DC story, and basically Superman goes crazy and starts trying to take over the world. So the United States government goes, kidnap his parents, and then we can use his parents as hostages. And then Batman is like, you stupid bastard.
Yeah, that seems like an awful idea.
These are gods, you know what I mean? like you're taking the parents of someone who can fly around this planet 5 times in a second. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think you're doing? You're like, he's not going to come here to DEFCON 1 and steal the president. We'll have the entire world looking for him. It's like, really? Are you going to find him on Saturn? Because that's where he's going. Like, this motherfucker can fly in space. He doesn't need to breathe. What are do you mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's hilarious.
No one's gonna be looking for your body on Mars. Oh, I had to throw that.
Yeah,
There's different rules.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah. That's just so deep, man. Like just having these and this is we're season 3, which we don't have to go. I mean, we're gonna talk about our expectations for season 3, but season 3 is where this whole shit's gonna get blown wide open, presumably, because there's so much boiling over between these two organizations that you know. Just man, season 3 might be the greatest piece of fucking literature we've ever read. It very well could be. Like,
it could
be. That I think is an amazing, like, just major point in terms of, you know, like what we're talking about here. Why should you read The Breaker, right? In 2021, right now, why should you pretty much immediately go read the first couple volumes? You know, it's gonna be, you're gonna love it, right? Why? Because Part 3 was just announced, right? Like it's been on hiatus for so long, and Part 1 and 2, just 1 and 2 with a hiatus, tons of people consider this one of the best stories. You know what I mean? Like with no ending, with no real ending. And now we're gonna get a fucking Part 3, baby.
Yes, like what the fuck?
Yes.
Like this is literally Christmas. Like you know. And one of the last things that I want to say before we move into, you know, the full conversation is that the art in this manhwa. And the art in this manhwa is different, you know what I mean? And it's different, I think, because of a combination of the creative team inside of John Guk-jin and Kamaro. But also, I just think that Korean creators just have a different approach to art in their stories. Obviously, they're from a different part of the world, but this is all obviously based off of Japanese storytelling.
Right.
But what you'll see in Japan, as far as like action goes, look at a Nanatsu no Taizai, look at a Dragon Ball, look at pretty much anything that has high octane action in it, and you'll see panels, and we have all seen these, where it's a high action panel, there's a bunch of kicks and blocks going, or maybe there's a character attacking, and they do a bunch of motions all in the same panel with after images, with the finishing motion like all on the same panel. But in The Breaker, Kamaro, and I don't know how much of this is Kamaro, it's probably a combination of John Guk-jin and Kamaro, but like, they break the action down to where you see every movement. They break it down panel by panel to where you can see, you know, like it's slow motion because they're showing you so many gradual movements on the way through their action sequence. You know what I mean? It's very refreshing, but it's also just really fucking cool. And the way that Kamaro draws impact was new to me, because usually you get, you know, One Piece style, manga style impact, very jagged, sharp explosions. George Morikawa inside of Hajime no Ippo is probably the biggest example. But then you go to The Breaker and the impact illustration is like smoke and dust and you know, and it's like that was so tight to me.
CG'd on there. It really looks CG'd in there, and I'm just like, man, this is crazy, this art style, because it's like, you really feel like you are watching an actual motion animation.
It's a lot more immersive. It's a lot more immersive than like the Japanese counterpart, in my opinion, because it's like there's a lot of times where I'm reading manga and I just got to let my imagination kind of like fill in the gaps, and they want you to do that because they know that, you know, Japanese manga takes advantage of, you know, really dynamic perspectives and switching perspectives constantly throughout combat. In Korea, it's like, no, you are seeing all of this shit the entire time, so there's no mistake. You know what I mean? And it is a lot more immersive that way. But
for sure,
yeah.
It is definitely high quality, like top tier, very crisp, very clean art. Like it's really high quality, especially for something that started back in like 2005 or whatever, 2008 or whatever you said, right? Like it's very good art for that time period, for sure.
It would be good art, I feel like, now in Japan. It would be like, oh, this is great. Like, it's really good.
Definitely.
Okay, do you guys think that was a thorough, non-spoiler
it's pretty good
recommendation? Pretty good. Do you think that we missed anything?
I don't think we missed anything. Section? I think I could have accidentally spoiled people in that, so I'm glad that we feel like we should move on, because
I just talk about without really talking about it.
Yes, exactly. Like we got a good 30, 40 minutes, you know, 45 minutes out of that. So I feel like that's as comprehensive of a non-spoiler recommendation, you know, as you can get without eventually becoming redundant. So, and
we got some people in the chat already saying I'm gonna have to go peep this right now, you know what I mean? So I think we're on the right track.
The only thing I'll add for non-spoiler is, if you hate bullies, this is your manga.
It is.
If you can't stand, if you had a bully in your life that you just fantasize like, oh, if things would have went to, this is your manga.
Yes, it
is.
What
was my Black Heaven and Earth technique?
Oh man.
Where was that shit back then?
It would have been perfect. It would have been a little different.
I need my 9 Arts Dragon to teach me some Black Heaven and Earth, man.
But not just the satisfaction of the bully eventually getting theirs, which is definitely a huge moment. But Chang Ho as a bully is really well written as a bully.
Very.
Like one of the best bullies I've ever seen. You know.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, you think Bakugo is aggravating? No.
Oh no.
No. Bakugo is tame. Bakugo would be aggravated.
Yeah.
You'd be like, wow.
Bakugo's just kind of a douche. Like he's not even a bully compared to Chang Ho. Like it's just Bakugo's just an angsty fucking yeller, right? Like that's like
he's annoying. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. He ain't spitting in Midoriya's hair and kicking him in his face and like, oh man, like
Chang Ho feels like he's got a plan, bro. He feels like a real like
evil
villain.
Scheme.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, knocked out of the park.
Well, before we get too much into specific bully destruction, we should probably
yeah. So, I hope that was, you know, a great non-spoiler recommendation for those of you out there who have not peeped the breaker yet. We hope that and as we can see, plenty of people in the chat are saying that they are going to peep. For the silent observers out there, we hope that was good enough for you. But we're going to take a brief intermission here, about 5 minutes, and then we will come back and we will jump into whatever else we want to talk about that's breaker related tonight. Okay? All right. All right. So give us about 3 to 5 minutes, and we'll be right back for you. This episode is brought to you by the Project Manga Patreon, the best way for viewers to support the project and allow us a means to keep providing new and quality content to our subscribers. Go to patreon.com/projectmanga and find out more about the perks we have available to patrons, including early access to all of our content and exclusive videos like behind the scenes footage and additional manga reviews. That's patreon.com/projectmanga. Okay, welcome back, you guys. So, for those of you who are still here, thank you for hanging out with us this long. We hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. But we are assuming that everyone here is either up to date with the breaker or doesn't care about spoilers. So,
including new waves.
Yes, including new waves, right? Like we are not just talking about the spoiler conversation for the first season of the series. We're talking about the entirety of the season, first and second, or the entirety of the series, first and second season. So, if you're here. Means you're caught up or you don't care. So the warnings have been plenty dished out. So,
you have been warned.
Gentlemen.
Yes.
Here we are. So
Yosh.
Whoo, man. Wow. So the news. So when the news hit, I thought it was fake. Because
we always do.
Yeah.
How many times has this news come out?
Right. But it's Naver. I didn't even see that Naver specifically said something. I didn't even see the name of the I was just like, oh, Breaker's coming back. All right, heard that before. Yeah, you know. But then everyone keeps saying, yo, Nox, the breaker. I keep seeing it on the timeline, and I'm like, you guys are falling for it. We just did this last year. What are you doing? You know what I mean? But no, it's real. The hype, unmatched.
Yeah.
Unmatched.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So as far as non-spoiler, or as far as spoiler talk goes, we can either, I don't know how you guys want to start this, but we can either take this as far as like our favorite moments throughout the entirety of both seasons, or we can jump straight to, like how season 2 ended and what we can't wait to see in season 3. I don't know where you guys want to go, but whatever feels right, where y'all want to start this off at.
So much to talk about.
I know.
Yeah.
Where do you actually
start? Do you start, right? I think it would be better if we just went through, started throwing out some of our favorite moments. Start throwing out moments.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
I can start off or whatever. Like, there's not a ton of moments I remember, right? Like I just read before this episode or whatever, like the first 3 volumes, it's so easy to read, right? I just flip through it like in an hour and a half, the first 3 volumes. Very, very good. But there's this scene that has always, ever since I read The Breaker all the way through, there's this scene that's always stuck in my mind where like Shion is like, he's meditating, right? He's in a room by himself and he's meditating, like unlocking this shit or whatever. Like fill in the blanks of what I'm forgetting here, right? But like
he's doing the mental image training because he's he's trying to continue training while his body is broken. So he doesn't want his training to stop just because he's in healing. So they're like, you don't have to stop. Go into mental image training and then you can fight Shadowbox in your mind while your body heals. One of the tightest concepts.
But don't they like open the door and look at him and he's like just sitting there like fucking like the Ki is like just like billowing off of them. He's like just like ascended to godhood essentially. Like he's the guy now. Like,
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's. I mean, if we want to keep talking about moments, I mean, I could really kind of dovetail off of just him becoming a god, because like that is kind of essentially where this story goes, right? Like, so not actually some kind of omnipotent god, but like a god figure of the Miram.
A god among men, essentially. Yeah, God.
Yes, definitely.
Comparatively, yeah.
Because knowing this black heaven and earth technique is like, it's super paradoxical, right? Like it's like you, when you activate the highest tier of this fighting style, the black origin threshold, like you surpass the limits of like the conscious and the subconscious. So like you become the purest fighting spirit, but every user that's ever used it before has been swallowed up by like primal emotions, and they lose their sense of self, right? Yeah. So like Nine Arts, Chun Wuhan, whatever, like he is revered as like the devil of the Miram, right? Like, even the true antagonist of this series, Kaiser, the Illuminati, top tier Illuminati guy,
man, whose face you still ain't seen.
Yeah, not fully. Sure. You get like a tiny
you
little.
You get the Batman, mask, whatever the Batman mask gives you. You get that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's just it's beautiful how their relationship grows into like an adversarial thing, but it's almost not even like. It's so hard to even really know what's going on through Chun Wuhan's mind, right? Like, because it's like he is trying to just like get Shiwun out of this Miram world, right? Yeah. So it's like it looks like he's doing some shady shit against his fucking student. And so like by the end of New Waves, just to kind of sum this up, like New Waves, meaning the new generation in this Miram, are moving in the direction of being like what the Miram is. It's just like, evolution and ideologies and how things go, right? Like a more progressive stance basically on all these traditional and old hat methods that these old fucking leaders were working on. So like you got this new wave of all these young people basically worshiping Shiwun as now like a god figure of the Miram to counteract the devil of the Miram, which is his sensei. Like it's wild. It's just so wild how the beauty.
Oh yeah, sorry, keep going. My bad.
Well, that was really it. It's just the beauty of how the relationship grows through the breaker to how the breaker ends, and how Chun Wuhan has to fucking look like I'm destroying his key center to be, this kid isn't my fucking disciple. Fuck that. You guys really thought this toy was, and he talks very disrespectfully about Shiwun and to make everybody believe this kid, I don't really have any ties to this kid. I didn't teach him shit.
He's not special.
He's not special. Exactly. And
they call his bluff on that so hard at the end though.
Yeah, they're like, bet, okay.
All right, well then press the button and blow us all up then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. On the in New Waves.
Press the button and blow us all up then, including that kid you don't care about then. How about that?
Yeah, that was Ghost Hands. That's Ghost Hands, man. Ghost Hands is so fucking tight, bro. Like
I'm not gonna do that.
But but that's just kind of just wanted to dovetail off that because like the God point, because that's really what it's going into, and I'm really excited to see how they handle this God versus devil kind of theme they're running with in the Miram, even when like Chun Wuhan at the end of the day, dealing with some weird mind shit, is still, he loves Shiwun, right? Like he still loves this. This is his true disciple, and we know that by what happens in fucking him passing on the fucking cell phone after he broke the key center with all the fucking with the black heaven and earth techniques that he had to train in. So like, man. Wow. I was trying for a while, but like I just love that direction.
Right.
Story went into.
And it ties all the way back to when we see the flashbacks of Chun Wuhan training with his master, and his master saying all this like Zen master shit, right? Like, you can't like let this shit like get to your head, and you're gonna be a bully and like harass people. Like that's not what this is about. You know what I mean? He's like, what do you mean it's not what it's about? Like this is about beating the shit out of people. It's like, but then like he sees in Shiwun like himself, the master too, right? He's like, this kid is saying the same things my master did. It pisses me off, but I love him for it. You know what I mean? Like, so good.
Yeah.
Pineapple, what you got?
Yeah.
I think my favorite moment, it's hard because I'm conflicted between when Nine Arts shows up to like everyone's just sitting there like, oh, now we're gonna have to deal with like he's gonna come here, I bet, right? Like what's gonna happen? And he's just outside, like, hey, everyone come downstairs. I'm here. And then like they could proceed to fight. It's like, whoa.
That's the scene where the tank is outside and they're like at like the big like building where like all the climactic stuff of the season like happens at, and he's standing there with like a million like armed guards like surrounding him.
And his arm is broken,
like, what
right?
are you guys gonna
no,
do?
this is New Waves, right? So this is this is when this is when he's standing in front of everyone and they're like, you're surrounded. We got you, buddy. And then he's like, all right, bet 2, and then he takes off.
I remember that too. I'm thinking about like towards the end of part 1, where he shows up where all the Morim leaders are, like they're all in the room, like pretty much discussing him, and he just pops up and just starts beating ass. Right, and they all have to come outside to like address him. So there's that, and the other one that like isn't like a huge moment, I think, but is always like something that sticks with me really well, is when Nine Arts is first teaching him foot techniques.
When he is
first teaching him the foot techniques, that was like the first time when I was reading, I'm like, oh, like, yeah, like there's like punching and all this, like the martial arts is really good, but like there's another level. There's like another layer of like stuff we are gonna get into in this series. And then I remember like the feeling of pride that I had when he first busts out the foot technique in the school and like gets around big like it's hard like to think of other characters that I've been that proud of that I was like in the moment, and every time I think of it I'm like, that is my son.
That is my son. That is how you
that
feel.
Is my son. Yes.
And I think the foot technique stuff hits so hard because of how much time they spent on foot technique training compared to really anything else in part 1. I mean like that's really all Shi-Woon can do, you know what I mean, which is something that I appreciate the Breaker for. They don't
He's fast and he hits hard.
They don't like hyper progress, you know, Shi-Woon. He progresses at a very gradual, almost like snail's pace, but there is enough going on with so many more interesting characters that it's okay that Shi-Woon stays in a very weak position pretty much throughout the entirety of the first season. And when he's teaching the foot techniques, man, it's like that felt like a Hunter Nen explanation, you know what I mean? Like, you know, he's like, you got Hui, Che, Hook, or whatever, you know, the words are, you know, all of the different, you know, areas of the foot technique. And I'm like, is every area of the training going to be this in depth? And pretty much so, but still, I think that no other area was like delved into as deep as the foot techniques, because the foot techniques are the most important, you know what I mean? Arguably. Right? Like that's everywhere. Like that's like base, you know, Murum
building blocks.
That's like base Murum techniques.
If you master those, you can do it. You can get around on most things.
Whereas
which like he shows like as he's running away and all that stuff, like he shows that like, hey, I can use all of these things to like escape and live, and I'm using them in like a different way. You know, I'm gonna use them to my advantage. Like he showed his mastery over all the foot techniques and like all that stuff by the way he was running away and escaping. These masters like who are literally like, dude, we're looking for a kid. Like there should be nothing. You guys can't find a child. We're spies. We hide in bushes. Every conversation that's ever happened, we've caught it in the bush. We have guys for that. You can't find some 16-year-old who just learned how to fight a week ago. Are you dead? What's going on? The master goes out. He's like, I'll go look for him. Pulls up with them, and he's like, finally. I'll do it myself.
Y'all let this 16-year-old whoop all of y'all. You're all fired as hell.
But I think somewhere I don't like.
I think going into the foot techniques is a good. I mean, it's just a good strategy for storytelling, because it's like, we don't have to go this deep into every you know, area of martial arts, but you know that it is this deep, and that we're going to give you, you know, everything doesn't have to be Nen, right? Like you don't have to understand the energy system perfectly to a T for it to be a good energy system. And there's so much nuance and so many cool things about this energy system. Like the end of New Waves, Elder Quan leaves behind a martial arts tome for Ginny. But he gives it to Elder Min instead. And Elder Min's like, I could just steal this. And then what? Like, then I'll know fucking Elder Quan's martial arts. But they're both in the Sunwoo clan. So you're like, don't they know the same fucking fighting style? And then fucking Elder Quan says to him, he's like, no, you would need 12 years of my key distribution technique to even begin to use my martial arts.
Yes.
And then he's like, well, then why would I just give this to Ginny? And he's like, because Ginny has been learning my technique the entire time. I've never been teaching her Sun Wu clan at all to begin with.
Yes, and that's what made Ginny feel so neglected. That's what made Ginny feel so neglected. Because why does my grandfather not want to teach me the clan's martial arts? It was such a
little did she know.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's so many cool flashbacks of like her trying to use like Thunder Fist, Lightning Bolt, or whatever, the down punch thing that everybody in Sun Wu clan fucking uses. Yeah. And every time she would use it, she's like, man, I'm really hurting myself. Like, this is really reverberating. These attacks like aren't working for me. And that's because you're learning Sun Wu fucking martial arts with this. I wrote it down too, because I didn't remember what it was, but it's
Ginny.
Bok style. It's Bok style, B-O-K, or no, D-O-K, Doc school technique that Elder Quan has.
Doc,
And he's like, and it was just so tight because like it ends the story on such a beautiful note, because Ginny is like, oh my God, I've been learning this special fucking martial art from my grandfather this entire time. He's left this legacy to me secretly. I had no idea. And then once she starts studying the martial arts tome, she's like, okay, now I'm using the martial arts techniques that fit my key distribution technique. So now everything is moving, flowing like butter, right? So like the fucking the sword cane dude comes back at the fucking end to fucking kill Yi Shi-woon, and fucking she comes down with that fucking the long sleeve whip technique that fucking only Elder Quan would use. She has no sleeve on and does the whip technique to like break his shit. You're like, oh my God, this is the tightest shit ever, bro.
Yeah, and that dude is like, how?
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's like,
so
what?
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's so like dumbfounded. He's like, what the hell is going on? Like, how do you even know that?
You can't just suddenly pop that out. And she's like, it's not so sudden, huh?
Yeah. Well, and there's great explanation for it too, because Elder Quan married into the Sun Wu clan. His last name isn't Sun Wu like Sosol. Lady Sosol's fucking last name is actually Sun Wu. His last name is not his Sun Wu. He married into the clan and had his own martial arts before he joined the clan. And like there's so many cool things like that. Like the Alliance head, the first chief, the shady shitty chief, he was fucking Unwal's like senpai. I don't know what you call it but the senpai, like he was the elder fucking student, and that's why he knows Black Heaven and Earth techniques as well. But he never reached Black Origin threshold, and fucking Unwal's master said, "You're basically not the man for this. Pass it on to Unwal, who passes it on to Nine Arts." You know,
but the thing that's crazy is that while Unwal was teaching Nine Arts, he had Dokenrang as a disciple too, Ryuji. So he had, but that
I'm
was
pretty sure
before.
Ryuji's already like, I'm pretty sure Ryuji is already like exiled, right? Like at that point, and
when Chun Wuhan comes to Unwal, Dokenrang's already gone, right? Yes.
Wow. Yeah, it's just so cool. Like how many like these great masters that passed their arts on, trained other people, and did not like, like, I taught him everything he knows, but I didn't teach him everything I know, right? And it's like,
ooh, that's hard. Hold on, bro.
I know. And it's like, there's a select student who does get to learn everything I know, right? Like this student doesn't meet the qualifications. And that's like we were talking about in the non-spoiler section on how martial arts are passed on and the ideologies between them. And that's why, like, man, Kang Sung is such a fucking cool dude, man. To be an old guy that really fucking loves the younger generation and really cares and wants them to grow and see them grow. It's not this I'm old, I'm right, my way or the highway bullshit.
Elders.
Exactly. How the world works, like in general, right? So like
this is why Tsukasa wanted to kill all the old timers in Dr. Stone.
Hell yeah, exactly. It's like
sick of it.
Yeah.
Like, man, I can't not just say more. Like I just keep talking all night. So
I got you. I got a page pulled up. I got a page pulled up here. Because I opened up the last volume of the Breaker since we've been here, and I'm just like thumbing through it, and I got to this page where I'm like, oh yeah. So when Shiyun in the final confrontation, and this is going back to the conversation about stakes that we had in the non-spoiler section about how you can write stakes without killing characters, and that's a really exciting thing for me to see how authors do. You know what I mean? Because it's very easy to just say and kill a guy. You know what I mean? But how do you write tension and how do you write worry and uncertainty in your story without killing people. And this scene shows Shi-woon talking to Gumun Ryong, talking to Chun Woo-han, and he's like, yo, give me the switch, bro. Because there's the bomb that's linked to Seoul or whatever, and he has the detonator in his hand. He's like, give me the switch. And they're having a very amicable conversation for the first time in the series, I think is what I remember.
Yeah.
And Elder Kwan is watching from a distance, and he says, if the clan head helps that man, then the Sun Woo clan, who's in the helicopters above us right now watching this, will see the Sun Woo clan head helping the opposition. You know what I mean? And what's even worse is that if that happens, the clan head, Shi-woon, will never be able to step out from that shadow for the rest of his life. Death isn't even on the table right now. This is just geopolitical ramifications of one decision that people are watching you make.
Yeah.
That's massive. Yeah.
The weight on that.
The weight on that is crazy. From just like an internal monologue, you get so much tension and like
you realize like, oh, there is more than what's going on here.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing that I wanted to bring up back when you were talking about the Black Origin threshold and how this seems to be, a very much, inherited will kind of like situation where you have the new waves coming in to replace the older generation. And you have Shi-woon, who obviously goes into the Black Origin threshold in his final fight against Gumun Ryong and gets wrecked. Now, for a final confrontation like that, I love the way that it was handled because Shi-woon goes Super Saiyan. He hits the Phoenix Rebirth, which is like a different kind of catalyst for entering the Black Origin threshold that separates Shi-woon from Chun Woo-han, which is going to be a big thing in their final confrontation in season 3. Yeah. This is going to be the biggest factor because when Chun Woo-han goes into the Black Origin threshold at the end of part 1, he doesn't have a Phoenix Rebirth. He literally just starts smoking from the mouth and eyes, and he's in the form. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm assuming that is the form of the Black Origin threshold that makes you lose yourself to the madness or the primal urges is because you didn't go into it from the Phoenix Rebirth. So I'm assuming, and then they're also talking when Shi-woon goes Super Saiyan, they were like, yo, this is crazy. This is a version of the Black Origin threshold that is very different than before. I feel like we haven't seen this in a really long time. The Gumun Ryong should have died 7 times fighting this kid already, but his martial arts aren't refined. So he has the power to beat Gumun Ryong, arguably, but just doesn't have the training. And then what do we get at the very end? Yeah, what do we have at the very end of New Waves? They're like, yo, the Sun Woo clan is over. Shi-woon doesn't have anyone to teach him the Black Source School martial arts. Elder Kwan is dead. Jinny is the heir, but she doesn't have Sun Woo clan martial arts, so it's over. Nope, boom. The douchebag from the fucking first part comes back, and you remember he fucked with Unwall. He has Black Origin martial arts. It was just chills, even just remembering it right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and there's a good little bit of dialogue leading up to basically in that conversation where it's like, Yi Shi-woon is Gumun Ryong's disciple, so he has learned Black Heaven and Earth technique, and but Sun Woo clan fighting style, those are 2 completely different temperaments needed to master those arts. And so it's like Sun Woo clan, he was getting Sun Woo clan training, but it wasn't really I think that's all part of yin and yang, basically mastering your 2 temperaments to be able to successfully tap into this Black Origin threshold where you're not going to be overcome, you're not going to be totally taken over by it. I really think there's some kind of balance in play there because it just made so much sense because in that conversation it felt like, okay, are we going to get, the other 2 elders that are still alive, the skinny dude and the big dude to teach, Yi Shi-woon now? Or what's going to happen? Yeah. That's what you thought.
We ain't seen and then, shit.
And then you see the old Alliance head do focus stomp and stomp the fucking Kensho dude's head shit in, and you're like, okay, here we are. Here's where it is. We need this. It's beautiful.
Now, real quick, I wanted to wrap up my last point by saying the final conflict was different because Shi-woon goes Super Saiyan, and you think final fight. This is going to be epic, multiple chapters. You know what I mean? This is it. You know what I mean? But no, this fight was very quick, and Shi-woon lost it. You know what I mean? That's big for shonen storytelling. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? And another thing is that like it sets up the next part so well because you have so many hanging plot threads.
Yep.
Chun Woo Han technically killed Elder Quan. He dealt the fatal blow, but you find out that Elder Quan rushed him with everything that he had. So Gu Moon Ryong was like, all right, I'm going to match that energy. And then at the very last second, Elder Quan holds back so that he could be killed by Gu Moon Ryong. So that the situation that I just brought up about everyone in the helicopter seeing Shi Woon help, Gu Moon Ryong goes away. You know what I mean? And like now everyone is like, you just fucking killed the Sun Woo clan head or Elder Quan. And he's like, he doesn't say like, man, he made me, you know what I mean? Like he held back at the last second and I rocked him with more power, like he doesn't say anything like that. So now I feel like that's going to be a big thing, going into season 3 is Shi Woon doesn't know that Elder Quan held back in that moment and allowed himself to die. So he doesn't know that it's not Chun Woo Han's fault that Elder Quan is dead. That's going to be a huge plot point when they meet up next time. Well, you killed Elder Quan. Is he going to tell him right then and there, like, this is what happened? Or are they going to fight first? And then the story is going to be told through fight? I don't know, but that's going to be massive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that reminds me of a conversation right before Shiho is sniped by Glasses Dude. Yeah. Glasses Dude is on the phone with Kaiser. And Kaiser and Glasses Dude is asking Kaiser, like, hey, like, you have 9 Arts Dragon now in Black Forest defense. Like, why are you putting your best piece out there to possibly be killed? Or like you're putting your best piece in jeopardy. And Kaiser says like, hey, we don't need 9 Arts Dragon because he's the best of the best and the strongest. Yeah. We need his image. We need this fucking demon king of terror is what it was translated. Like he is the demon king of terror for the Miram. Like he represents the strength that we have against the Miram, basically. Like they all know. So it's like he's really just a figurehead at this point. So like he's clearly being used, which because like there's a lot of reasons that Chun Woo Han is being used in this situation by the Illuminati people. And so like
it's the drugs, right? He's on drugs. They give him drugs that make him forget shit.
There's that too. There's that too. Yeah, they are giving him drugs. But like, is Shi Woon going to learn of this through other means and see that, okay, you're being taken advantage of and put Shi Woon in a very bad spot? It's like, okay, maybe I want to avenge Elder Quan, which I should, but I also have conflicting feelings because you're my teacher. But then I also have conflicting feelings because I know you're being manipulated in your mind and your brain's not there. It's like there's so many levels to like what that conflict is going to look like. I'm very interested to see how that's handled.
Me too.
I think it sets up a very tragic story potentially.
Yes.
Right, which is like I love, right? That's what I'm really excited for. So I just feel like that's where it's headed. It's heading somewhere sad where it's like you want those two to end up with everything being okay, and realistically like how can that happen?
Right.
Or like how it's become like a war of like heaven and hell at this point.
Yes.
These two.
Yes.
Right. And like you might have that moment where Shi Woon's like, oh, but damn, I want to redeem you. Like I want you to come up here in heaven and be with me, and like but you like have done some stuff that like, no one else up here is cool with you being up here for. Yeah. So now what do I do? Right. Like that's gonna be a rough situation to be in. I think that's definitely gonna be a big focus.
And having so many questions, obviously that are laid there because the story is supposed to continue. So there's supposed to be a whole bunch of hanging plot threads that haven't been resolved. But just the sheer number of questions that we have going and answers to questions that we want and that we've been wanting throughout the entire series, knowing that all of those things are going to be answered in season 3, it's like, how could this not be? And you could say whatever you want. You can have your favorites. I feel like all things considered, with a gun to my head, I'd probably choose season 1 over season 2. But like,
same
with what we have coming up for season, like it has to be the best.
It's set up.
It has to be the best part,
especially with the weight and everything. Like
Yeah, dude.
Sure.
But
I have a question.
The reread, is gonna be ridiculous when you have all 3 complete.
When you can read the entire series front to fucking back.
When I'm 40, I
had a question though, because obviously there's 2 drastic deaths in the series. For and I understand that it's been a while since we've read this, but I feel like the weight of those moments have kind of stuck with us, regardless of how much we remember about the whole series. So I mean, like, which hit harder, Elder John or Quan?
John for me.
Was it?
It's just, I mean, Quan, it's like
it felt like his time.
Yeah, and there's like lasting effects that you go back and look at Quan that makes you feel like in retrospect, like you feel good about how things like it's okay. We're like, Elder John is just tragic and sad, and I'm so sad. He was sad, and he's the only dude that believed in fucking Yi Shi-woon from the Sunwoo clan. Yes. He's the only one who's like, no, this kid is that deal. Fuck all your using him as a puppet type shit. No. Yeah. Hell no. Like, he was just riding for Shi-woon.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly, dude. He was riding for Shi-woon.
What do you guys mean?
Shi-woon was Elder John's son. Almost, I feel like before, I really considered him like mine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it got to a point where I was like, yes, like, protect Shi-woon at all costs. You feel that very early in the series, but it's not until he's developed and progresses a great deal, at least for me, where I legitimately felt like, yo, this is my kinfolk right here. You know what I mean? And John, I feel like knew right away as soon as he saw the kid. You know what I mean? Like, he has to talk his little shit when you meet him. You know what I mean? Because he's an elder. You know what I mean? But as soon as he spent any amount of time with Shi-woon, he knew right away, like, this kid is it. You know,
I always like those stories. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm done. Yeah, I was done.
I always like those stories where it's like the character gains recognition through the person who's like, what do you think you're about to come in here and do? What do you, come on, you're scrawny. And he's like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Watch.
And it's always
you
so
and me are going to be
polarizing.
bleeding in a field soon.
Yeah.
Watch. Don't worry about it. And we're going to be best friends afterwards.
Yeah. And it's that scene always hits so hard because it's such, intense opposite sides of the spectrum. You go from, this kid shouldn't be here. What are you doing? Where are your parents? Don't you have homework to do type shit? All of a sudden it evolves into, I respect this 16-year-old.
I believe
more than I've respected anyone in my life in this martial arts.
I'm gonna entrust my dreams to this 16-year-old after knowing him for 4 days. I always love that trope. It's like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
It just lets me know how raw the character is. It's like, well, you're gonna do that,
or it's
like,
I
believe in you.
It's like, what kind of relationships have you had as a 45-year-old man to meet a 16-year-old kid in the twilight years and go, this kid is everything. I've been waiting for the
other options.
Special, obviously. I know, obviously, clearly, but it's always going to be hilarious. But yeah, I mean, hey,
but it does hit.
He didn't have to eat. It does hit. He didn't have to eat hair to do it. Like, that's always since pineapple's here. Since pineapple's here, it's like, you don't have to eat hair to get this one. Yeah, that's just. I remember going back.
He still had help, though. Man, but he still had help.
Did he really have to eat hair?
He ate the egg.
That was so
the Illwall Sun Don.
Yeah. Is
that it? Did I get it?
No. Yeah. I thought it was Illwall Moon. Maybe
it was something like that. And you want to know what
Illwall
I think?
Sindon.
Oh, that's what it is.
Is Illwall Moon the clan that made it? I think.
I think it's that, but also I think Moon is just involved in that combination of like words or whatever. I think Moon is like one of the words inside.
I think Moon is school.
I wouldn't know that, but I think that the reason why we think it's Illwall Moon is because of the translation combining Korean and English.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I think I think the Sindon part might be the Moon part, or the Illwall part is the Moon part. But either way, I think it's half Korean, half English in that translation. But but he did need help. He had to eat that to get ki, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He ate the power pellet, whatever it is.
That's how I got his quirk.
Yeah.
Yeah, soul crushing strike. That's a pretty good quirk, man.
Yeah.
It's there. I mean, Detroit Smash. It's there.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Okay, so
damn it, Hori.
We're at about an hour and a half here. We probably got another 15 minutes. I feel like that we want to get out of this conversation. So we could go into final thoughts, but a question that I had was, because there is a specific moment, like a turning point in the story for me, that like really had me like, whoa, this is different. This is crazy. I'm here forever. I feel like we have this conversation whenever we gush about a specific series. We'll be like, what was the moment that locked you in, guaranteed, where you were like, no turning back?
Yeah. I mean, I can go first because I know mine offhand. I mean, just because of the way the story was introduced to me by you, we read Gumun Ryong versus Strong Metal Hand or whatever, right? Like that's the first chapters I read was the fight Gumun Ryong versus Strong Metal Hand, and when Strong Metal Hand locks on his leg, and you're like, okay, he's getting blown. This building's done, right? Like they're both done, right?
Yeah.
And he focus stomps that dude's hand clean off of him. I mean, I went home and just did not stop reading The Breaker until I was caught up. Like after just that, like we read that at your house. Like I didn't need it in the actual like going through the story. I had it before I like officially started the story, which was wild. Like, Dude, so that's crazy.
And that is the moment that you have consistently said as was your moment. So I did already know that. Yeah. For me, it was so when Mamungi, the like fish face dude with the biker jacket and the kukri blade, he was chasing Lady Sassul, and the driver, you know, Shiho's driver, I can't remember Buddy's name. Alex. The one English name. I dropped 17 Korean names from memory and don't fucking remember Alex. What am I doing? Okay. So Alex is whipping, you know what I'm saying? And Mamungi and his biker guys are like chasing him, and then they like corner him or whatever. And then they pull up and he's about to do, you know, some damage or whatever. And then Gumun Ryong pulls up and he tussles with, you know, Mamungi for a little bit or whatever before saying, I'm the Nine Arts Dragon, or before Mamungi puts it together. As soon as that motherfucker realizes it's the Nine Arts Dragon, he's like, everyone stop fighting. Boom, cuts off his arm right there. Just in the moment, he's like, fuck it. This is Nine Arts Dragon. We're all gonna die if I don't do this. Boom, cuts off his arm. Take this as a gift. I'm
so sorry.
I am so sorry. I fucked with you. That, like, from that moment, just how casual he was. Like, yep, boom, get this out of here. Don't need that. I'm sorry. You know, that was the moment where I was like,
yo.
Yeah, and he figured it out by fighting him. Again,
he figured it out by fighting him. Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, this is the wrong fucking dude. And he's in a cast. Or wait, he was in a cast. Yeah,
he was in a cast at that point.
That's
after
the fight. And he's just dodging kukri blade all day, like boom, boom. The kukri blade fucking illustrations were so good. Like the fighting. We've already talked about it, but just like clean, you're seeing all those movements, and that is just piff, bro. Yes. Just straight piff.
Yes, absolutely. That was when I was really like, okay, because I'm like a huge fan of the trope where badass characters take high trauma attacks and like don't like wince at it. You know, I love that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like when fucking Netero gets his fucking arm or his leg cut off. Yeah. And then Merim was like, all right, tell me my name. And he was like, nope. And then flexed that shit closed and then just went right back into stance. I was like, oh shit. And then he lost the arm. And I was like, but then he went right back into stance. Like he just already had a stance for losing one arm and a leg. He was just fucking like ready. You know, like he just improvised that shit. I was like, oh my. Yeah. And then like in Hunter again, when fucking after Killua kills Bodoro in the Hunter exam and fucking Gon wakes up and goes straight to fucking Illumi, grabs him by the arm, stands him up, crushes his fucking arm, no reaction from Illumi. But then after the scene, Hisoka like looks at his arm and he's like, oh, yeah, it's broken. You know what I mean? It's like, that's fucking cool. You know what I mean? So like when I see that scene in The Breaker, I'm like, oh, yeah, Hunter, Nanatsu no Taizai, like, you know, I'm thinking of like everything, you know what I mean, that has that cool ass moment in it, solidified. Right. I'm going nowhere, you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, just right before we move away from that part, just real quick, the tension in that whole, the whole situation, when Mamungi just appears on top of the fence, like, what's good? Like, I damn near shit
that
my pants,
shot,
bro.
That perspective,
bro,
it's like
the perspective, yes.
And he's like over, and he's like exaggerated anatomy, you know what I mean? Because of the perspective, he's hanging, he's crouched up on the top of the fucking fence with the kukri blade hanging down. That was like the first that was the first chapter cover that had me like, yo, this is crazy. Okay, Pineapple. Yes. What was your moment?
I think for me, when I was first reading Breaker, a big thing was like, I really love the bully subplot, right?
Yes.
Like Chang Ho, but for me, I was like, all right, well, this is all great, but if this guy doesn't get like his comeuppance, like, I can't continue reading this. I can't, in good conscience, like, if this guy doesn't get his ass beat at some point.
So it's the tooth fly. Remember the tooth fly, bro?
Oh,
when he gets his face caved in that hallway. After bashing his head in with that bat, I was like, all right, I will read this manga forever, no matter what happens. He gave me the one thing that I needed. That other stories would have been like, no, we don't need, you know, like Deku and Bakugo became friends.
Yeah.
You know, even though they fought, it's not the same as you getting punched across the hallway.
Yes. this bully was never meant to be your friend later in the story.
and then I just appreciate like how much that gets magnified for me when it's like Chang-Ho doesn't forget that happened, and he's now like, oh, I'm gonna stop bullying you. He's like,
no,
I'm gonna learn how to beat your ass. No, I'm not gonna let that fly. And I love it. I love it because I feel like every other series I read, they would have just had him become some background character who's irrelevant now. Who's just like, I'll never bother you again. I'm sorry. Here's my lunch money. But no, Chang-Ho was like, no. I will join a secret society if it means I can beat this kid's ass again. I don't care what I have to do.
Right.
Dude, that is a big moment because, oh my God, you just made me remember because he goes up to him.
When I saw him in the skeleton outfit.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, you're talking about with the bat, right?
I'm actually talking about in part 1 when and this is in the bully, arc, you know what I mean? Where Shiwon comes up to Guman Ryong and he's like, all right, check it out. I took a video of you using high-level martial arts last night outside of the bar.
Right.
Teach me martial arts or I am telling on you, essentially. And he was like, no. And he's like, okay, beat up my bullies for me then. You know what I mean? And he's like, so let me get this straight. You are blackmailing me, you know what I'm saying, with this footage. Because you want me to go whoop your bullies for you. I'm a substitute. I'm not even supposed to be here.
Children.
I'm gonna whoop these kids, and they're gonna leave you alone, and then I'm gonna leave, and they're going to end you. Yeah. So like, why don't you just like figure something else out? He's like, you don't get it, man. I want to kill myself, and he's like talking about how suicidal he is. He's like, I get bullied every day, bro. He's like, so you're telling me that you're thinking about an option like that, taking your life instead of just standing up to this kid?
Yeah.
And I was like. Like, that was like when I was like, okay, I felt the fuck out of that, bro. Like, I just love motivational quotes like that, where they're not even trying, like, the East is so good with motivational quotes. It happens so naturally. In the West, you know what I mean? Like, it's built up to you. Like, when the big motivational words happen, you know what I mean? Like, and it happens that way in Japan, too.
And then it gets built upon.
Yeah. But there's a lot more, subtle, casual, offhanded, hard-hitting quotes in Japan, you know what I mean, that you really think back to and go, he said that really offhandedly, but this is gonna stick with me for like 10 years.
Yeah, it hurts. It hits.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that I think a scene that builds on that, where you're talking about really well, is the bridge scene.
Yes.
Where he's like, all right, go ahead, jump off the bridge then. Yeah. You want me to train you that bad?
And he's like kidding. He's like, not even just really saying it hyperbolically, serious. And he's walking away.
He's like, dude, I feel like you need to understand that for me, this is life or death. Like, if you don't teach me, I'm dead. So here we go.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's figure it out.
Yes,
right? Like, if you don't teach me, you've explained to me that if I don't know how to fight, then when you're gone, it's over.
Yeah.
So fine. You are going to teach me.
Yeah.
You are, and I love that.
I didn't even think about
the story.
Yeah, I didn't even think about like that ultimatum inside of Shiwon, because I don't even think Shiwon has an internal monologue where he says anything like that. Like, man, if I don't jump, I'm as good as dead, so I might as well. Like, I never thought about that. That's so fucking cool.
It's just like from his actions, it's just like he just operates like a person who's like, I don't know why you're acting like I have options. Like, you're telling me, hey, it's either do this or I won't train you. It's like, all right, so I am going to do this. It's just like when he ran the track and had the heart attack, right? He's I will run the 50 laps around the track then if I have to. If it kills me, I'm gonna do it, because you're telling me literally die or learn how to fight. So I'm gonna I'll try.
I gotta do what I gotta do to get you in this dojo with me.
Yes. A mega hype moment for me near the beginning, like in this same time period we're talking, right? Like the training and the bully arc, like leading up to this, is like, it's so perfect. It just flows. You're just constantly reading. And then there's a scene where like he's in the nurse's office, right? He's in Shio's office because he's got too much energy now that he's eaten this pill thing, right? And he's by himself. She's like, you just gotta sit here and wait, dude. Don't move, don't fight anyone, don't do anything. If you do anything, you're gonna like explode. Your body is like just gonna explode with energy. And then these dudes come in, right?
Yes.
And they're like, where's Shiho? Like who are you? Like we're gonna like fucking kill her. We're gonna kill you. And then the next scene you see is her coming back, and he's like covered in blood. There's blood everywhere. These dudes are obliterated. And that's the moment where I'm like, oh dang, like the gravity of the situation just magnified, huge.
And that scene hits so hard because the art in that scene when she walks back into the room, it's a very warped, like fish eye. There's almost a fish eye lens on the scene, which is the focal point to Shi-Woon's face. You have this very oblong, warped perspective on Shi-Woon, looking at what he just did at the dead bodies around him covered in blood. The contrast in that scene, from what I remember, is great because Shi-Woon is very light in the front, but then it's very grainy and sketchy and dark, around him with that fisheye perspective. Yeah, that was the moment for me too, where I was like, oh, I wasn't ready for that page turn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is essentially the conversation. You know what I mean? And I feel like we can move into like last things that you guys want to make sure that you guys get out for this Breaker exclusive episode. And then we can wrap it up. Final thoughts. Final thoughts, Kiko.
Okay. So I would say, just kind of to explain maybe to people, this is my interpretation of the just why the series are named the way they are, right? The Breaker, right?
Yes.
So the first season is Chun Woo-han is literally the Breaker, breaking the status quos of the Miram Way, right? He is the odd man out in this world, and people want him dead or on their side or erased, however it happens, and he's breaking the status quo. And New Waves is they're also breaking the status quo, but it's not Gumun Ryong breaking the status quo. It's the New Waves breaking. All the youngsters, Yi Shi-Woon, led by, even indirectly led by Yi Shi-Woon, because Yi Shi-Woon isn't really trying to lead anybody anywhere. He's just trying to do his thing, right? But leading by example, you get Smiling Sword fucking, he's the one that's kind of leading this fucking new wave generation, but they all look up to and respect Yi Shi-Woon. And I just really love, just when I realized like that's what I believe that the naming theme is about. Like, it just made me try to think just so deeply on like what part 3 is going to be called. Like, what is part 3 going to be called?
And just to kind of like piggyback off of that, I love the double entendre, like kind of like aspect of the name and like of the series and like what that title of the series means in the narrative. It reminds me of Hunter x Hunter. I love when stories do this, because obviously we know that the title of Hunter x Hunter is also a double entendre. The first Hunter is Gon, the second Hunter is Jing, and then obviously Gon's classification as a hunter is a hunter, a hunter who hunts other hunters. So I love when stories fucking do that. You know what I mean? So, and I didn't even think about that until right now. That's fucking awesome.
Well, one more quick little thing about it too. Like, I love the artistic decision of having the first volume of Gumun Ryong breaking the glass, like the third wall, or like fourth wall. Sorry, and it's like, it's just a great artistic choice to have that like set the pace. You're just like the Breaker. You're just like, oh, this is just like
he's breaking shit already. All right, I'm ready to break shit. Give me the world. I got a bottle. Break this
martial arts. We break glass. We break bricks. We break bones. Whatever. Like it's like, we're breaking bread. Whatever we gotta break here. You don't really. It takes a while. Whatever we gotta break, we break it.
Man.
Even if it's bread, something getting broke.
We're breaking whole buildings down, and like literally blowing them bitches up.
Oh, that's good, man. Nick,
love it.
Final thoughts, Nick.
Just that, like, to reiterate the magic system, right? Like the magic system and like the technique based schools where like each school has like their technique. Like my school's technique is I'm gonna crush you with my hand or whatever. Or my school's technique is I'm gonna punch through your skin. Like your skin isn't even damaged, but your internal organs are damaged. Like every school has their own thing. It just flows so well. It's so sick that everyone has like their own thing, right? And like of course then you have like the hype of the Gumun Ryong, the Nine Arts Dragon that like I can do everything, and it's like it's just and everyone's so pissed off about it, right? Like you're not supposed to do that.
It's
like
just jealousy. Like,
it's jealousy, but like
you're mad. But there's that you also don't get
the balance thing, right? Like it's like you're setting the world off balance. Like we have this balance of every school having their own thing, and maybe I'm cool as shit. I know 3 things or whatever, right? But like you're not supposed to know everything, right? And it's like it's so sick. So well done.
Sa-moon Ryong. That's Dokenrang, isn't it?
No, Kang Sung.
Kang Sung. That's right.
So that's the thing. Like Wall set this precedent, and that's why they threw his ass into the fucking dungeon or into the cave as a They were like, we could just kill you because Wall killed all the elders at that time because they basically were like, hey, like you're fucking way too fucking strong, basically, right? We don't like this imbalance in the world. Yeah. And he's like, all right, bet I'll balance by killing all y'all, and I'll set the new balance, basically, right?
Right.
And like it was just really cool that it's just, I don't know, the balance of what Gumoon Ryong like represents is not balanced, and then Yi Shi-woon is the one to balance it. Like I talked about, like a god and a devil kind of thing is in yin and yang, or however you, and him balancing his fucking energies inside, so he's going to be able to use the Black Origin Threshold in a positive way, kind of like a positive energy situation in Jujutsu Kaisen.
Hey, wait a minute, what you doing right now?
Yeah. So like, man, it's beautiful how that all ties together. I love it, man.
Hell yeah, dude. Okay, Pineapple.
I just want to have everyone who watches this understand that Breaker is a series that deserves your read. It's a series from a long time ago that definitely is missed over by people, right? Yes. Like it's something that if you weren't reading at the time, you might not know someone who was reading it. You might not have ever heard of it. You might never hear of it if it's not like relevant to people that you're following. But it's definitely something that deserves your attention, and for you to read it and tell everyone else about it, because there's a really passionate story, I think, at the core.
Hell yeah.
That I mean, it deserves to be shared, and there's parts of it that you're going to think are like, oh, this is so much like this other thing that I read. Or this is so much. This is following this trope or that trope. But then it continuously does it in a way where you cannot put it down. Where it's like, I think I'm following this trope, and then no, completely subverted, or just it's done in a way that is like masterful. So it's like, oh, whatever. This is now the standard for this trope for me. How everyone else does this trope. I love this here in Breaker. Like
you reset that bar for me.
So
exactly, it's precedent and execution. Yes,
I think it has a really good chance for being high up there on a lot of people's top 5s, top 3s, your top ranking list. So give it a try. Please read it, and please be excited for the next season, because we've been. How long? I don't know how long it's been.
5 years.
I don't. At
least.
Yeah.
So
and time doesn't exist anymore right now during these times. But like it has not gotten any easier to wait for this series. Like it hasn't. Knowing that it's coming, and just knowing that it's coming back, but not knowing when or anything like that is painful.
Yeah.
But it's something, right? It's something to hold on to. So join the something to hold on to gang. Catch up. And join the pain, right? And also join the triumph when we finally get to finish part 3 one day.
Yes.
Now is the perfect time.
Now is literally the perfect time.
Nox will probably know this, but what was it? Trinity Wonder? Is that what it was called?
Trinity Wonder, right. So yes, so Trinity Wonder was the webtoon that they did after the Breaker.
Yes, and that's officially done, and it's been for a little while, right? Yeah. So that is, feels good. Like that's you definitely can be positive.
No distractions.
There are other stories done, and they're gonna focus. They've probably been focusing since that story's done.
What if it's like almost done already, or some shit, and we're about to get this next month?
I can't wait.
Yeah, storyboards and shit are done. I think, right? Like I think they got they got their direction. I think they're gonna hammer this shit out of the park, bro. Like I'm so hyped.
I know they will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen in chat, I think that will do it for this conversation about why you should read The Breaker, what's great about it, and how excited we are that it's coming back for its 3rd season. Finally, Pineapple, thanks for chilling with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Had a great time, bro. You're welcome back anytime. Let us know. I'll hit you up with content whenever we're doing this stuff.
Just ask me.
Yeah. You can let us know what you're trying to do. But wow. Okay. Yeah. This was OneShots. Thank you all so much for watching. If you did, everyone that is still here and hung out with us the entire time, you guys are champions. This is a very obscure book that really no one knows about. So I didn't really know what to expect as far as chat turnout, but you guys were here. Sorry we didn't really incorporate your takes and comments as much into this episode as we do previous ones, but this was a really big conversation. We got
a Breaker channel in the Discord now.
We do have a Breaker channel in the Discord. You can see us there.
Deserved.
We were really excited about this conversation, so we wanted to make sure that we got that itch scratched, because I feel like ever since we started this venture, The Breaker has been on our mind. Like we even said it. The Breaker comes back. Like we're reviewing it on our weekly Shonen Jump shit. You know, shit. So and I don't, obviously times have changed, but you can bet your bottom dollar that when this shit starts coming out with season 3, we will be talking about it and reviewing it in some capacity.
I hope a lot of people do. I hope that it gets really widespread because I feel like it's so niche, right? It's something that's so good that not enough people know about. That it's like, damn it, you could all be eating this. It's like having a great steak, and it's like, wait, everyone.
All you need,
they're free.
All you need is people on Twitter are going to go crazy when season 3 comes out, and everybody's going to feel like they're not involved, and they're going to go back.
Yeah, the timeline is going to be drastic, bro.
Yeah, it's going to go crazy.
So get in now.
Go from people never hearing about it to being like, oh, suddenly everyone's reading this thing I've never heard about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to be way behind.
Yeah, so this is y'all's chance right now. You heard it here from Project Manga and Vocal Pineapple. Read the freaking Breaker, man.
Please.
Like, come on, man. All right. But yeah, so this is OneShots. This is our bi-weekly, or this is our every other weekly manga podcast that we have right here.
Bi-monthly.
On the bi-monthly, there it is, yes. So, but yeah, if you guys pulled up late and you want to see the entirety of the conversation, we will have it on our Patreon tomorrow morning. Otherwise, you can wait for it to hit YouTube Saturday, whatever works best for you. But, whoo, boy, yeah, absolutely. This is going to be great. And when we do set it up on YouTube, we'll set it up in like a premiere style formats to kind of like try to like emulate, this atmosphere as best as we can on YouTube. So that is where you can find it if you need to. But this is Project Manga. This is OneShots. We hope you enjoyed yourselves. Holler at us anywhere you normally chill on the internet. We're on Twitter, Discord. Join our Discord. Visit our About section and just see everything that we do. All of our links are there. Yeah. And fuck with us. You know where we're at.
Hell yeah.
But all right, y'all.
Sure.
All right. Oh, yeah. And also, I'm going to put Vocal Pineapple's information down in the description section of the YouTube VOD. So please subscribe to Vocal Pineapple if you are not already. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, man. This was.
No, of course.
Yeah, dude. This was some shit, bro.
Yeah, it was a really good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can't wait for more. Good times, great oldies. Wrapping up. I'm your host, Knox.
Kiko.
Nickums.
Pineapple.
We'll catch y'all next time.